welcome to the show. This is Everything Under the Sun. My name is Ty. Hope all y'all are doing well out there. Today we are going to be talking about holistic health, and I am happy to be joined back with my friend Allie, who maybe you remember from the social media episode, but she is a holistic health coach and is here to talk to us about holistic health, and we're going to get to know a little bit about what that means, because I gave a description last episode, and I'm pretty sure it was just terribly, terribly wrong. So, Allie, thank you for being here with me.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's great having you back, and this time in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we're switching it up.
Yeah, we are switching it up. So you recently moved back to the area that I live in. I live in Northern California, like I've mentioned many times, and I'm very vague and ambiguous when I say Northern California, but I mean Arcata, California, a small little niche with a university, college town type of thing. So how's that been? Just being back from Monterey? From Monterey?
Monterey, yes. I love Monterey so much, but it's really nice to be back here. It's especially during this time, and we don't have a lot of options of going out and doing things. It's nice to be out in the outdoors and in the forest and kind of exploring. So it's been really nice.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, like I've mentioned before too on this podcast, I live in a rural area. It's very just fortunate that we live in this area. It's so beautiful. Forest, mountains, oceans, beach. Yeah, I forgot the name of it. And it's all just very, very, very fortunate that we get to live in this area. So that's super awesome. I was just being told about this movie being John Malkovich, like Allie suggested to me, and I always kind of speak about the things I've been watching or things I've been interested in watching, and this is definitely going to be a good watch. I mean, you gave me a pretty gnarly description of what that
yeah,
show
it's an old like. I feel like it's an older classic, and I watched it again recently for the first time in a very long time, and I love it. It's just bizarre, and you can just travel into a portal into somebody's mind, and it's a trip. I like it.
It sounds super trippy, and I'm excited to watch it. I'm usually someone that watches multiple shows at one time, but recently I've been watching like one show at a time, and I've been watching the new Sabrina, or like the one that's on Netflix.
I love that show.
I recently got into it. A friend suggested to me, and it's always been on like my kind of like to watch list type of thing, but I've never been too keen on starting it myself. But I watched a few episodes with a friend of mine, and I got kind of hooked on it. It's pretty interesting. It's very different from the one that we know growing up, or the one that I watched growing up, but it's good. I don't know.
Yeah, I loved both actually, but
yeah.
This one's a lot darker.
Oh yeah.
It seems kind of more modern.
Yeah, it adds like definitely a dark factor that I think maybe we can all enjoy a little bit. There was something else. Yeah, you just went on a trip to Tahoe, right?
Yeah, Truckee and
Is that in Tahoe?
It's not. It's in the same area. It's about 45 minutes away. Okay. And then we did a couple of days in Tahoe Lake, which is awesome. Nice. But it was a little bit smoky out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've mentioned about the fires. Like they're all over California right now. It's kind of just ridiculous, like fire season, and but I mean that was just like it wasn't so smoky that you couldn't enjoy your time, I'm assuming.
Oh no, it wasn't as hot as it would have been, just because I think of that haze, but It was nice. It was a good time, and it was my first time going, so nice. I have nothing to compare it to, and I loved it.
Sweet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went to Tahoe one time a few years back. It was actually 2 years ago, and I went for snowboarding, so it was over the winter time, and that was very different, apparently. Like, I hear Tahoe in the summertime is like just very different than the winter vibes. Like a different crowd of people coming in, different like just atmosphere in general. I went to South Lake, and that's like known for snowboarding and skiing, like kind of like that type of thing. In North Lake, which is the north of the lake, and it's known as like more of a like resort, from what I've been told, like more resort time. Like family go there, and like they just stay in resorts, maybe go to the lake and stuff like that. Whereas like again, South Lake is like adventurous people, like just get little cabins and go out to the mountain all day and then come back and party. But, so I've never been in the summertime, so I'm interested in doing that sometime.
Yeah, I know we went to Nevada, so we went to that side.
Oh, you're on the Nevada side?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on the California side, so I didn't even know That's interesting.
Yeah.
Truckee. I'm gonna have to check that place out.
Yeah.
Are there like rivers and things that go through there? Like,
Yeah, there's Truckee River. And then there's Donner Lake. That was closest to us. If you know about, have you heard about Donner Lake?
No, it sounds like something in a horror movie though.
Actually, you're kind of right in terms of historical. Yeah. Well, no, it's the Donner Party was known for traveling during this like winter blizzard, and not being able to survive, so they ended up eating each other.
Oh wow! At the lake.
I don't know about specifically at the lake. Okay. Yeah, maybe when it was a blizzard or near it, but anyways, it was named after that. That's what I've been told. So.
Jeez.
Yeah.
What a rich history.
Yeah.
Something to tell the kids at night.
Something to remember.
So I guess I'm just gonna get this box thing happening because we're gonna try to get talking about holistic health. I don't know what this conversation entails. Again, I gave a description last time that I think was just completely false because I know nothing about holistic health. Although it's something I do want to learn more about. So I'm gonna take some notes. I have my pen and paper here. I'm gonna take some notes during this, so hopefully we'll gain some information, listeners and myself both. So, topic that was just drawn, influence. And, I mean, what a vague topic. I don't know why I just wrote influence there. But, this is influence. There's so much influence in our lives, but there's influence coming externally, influence from our emotions, influence from just our past experiences and things that influence us to make that next decision, to take that next step, to do the things that we wish to do in our lives. And whether that's a negative influence or a positive influence, we are constantly being influenced. And whether that's by ourselves or by other people, we're constantly being influenced. So I think that this conversation is going to be amazing on the topic of influence.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to talk about for sure.
Mm-hmm. Influence. Alcohol, you can be under the influence and...
Yeah, you can spin it many different ways. You can talk about influencers and being under the influence and... Yeah.
Social media influencers, their entire title is to influence people in whatever degree that is. Sometimes not exactly the most positive way, but it's still influence. But that's going to be an interesting topic for next week or the following, who knows. But that'll be the next main topic that will be spoken about on this show. And, many of you may hear the audio difference. It's because it's a more open room. We're changing up the settings, so it's going to be a little bit different. And, the sound is so good. I did a sound quality test, so we can assure that the microphone is plugged in. Unlike the last time I did an episode where I did the entire episode, the microphone wasn't plugged in.
Oh, bummer.
And I listened back to it, and I was like, wait, the sound sounds really terrible. And I realized that the microphone wasn't plugged in. It was really bad. So we did the test. Microphone's plugged in, and we are recording, so that's good. And influence the topic for next week. So this week, we're going to talk about holistic health. And like I said last time, I gave a terrible description. So, Allie, I guess first, what's your journey with holistic health, and how did you even get involved in doing stuff like this and wanting to get involved in it?
Yeah, it's actually been kind of a long roller coaster journey of just trying different things and learning about myself. So, I think it all began after college. And I always wanted to do something where I could help other people, help the world, help the environment. And I studied environmental science in college and learned a lot about the relationships between people and the environment and with each other and how it all kind of plays out, I guess. And after that, I realized that, there's only so much, at least I feel this way, is that there's only so much that humans are able to do right now. We've, so many people are under so many different kinds of stressors. They have to worry about, how they're going to get food and how they're going to feed their family and where they're going to be and if they're going to be safe. And unfortunately, that's just the reality we're in. And so I figured, there is a lot of things we can do. We can make environmental laws. We can still make a difference. But I really wanted to make a shift. And I really believe that when we heal ourselves, we can heal the planet. And, taking that even further, I kind of thought about, what are my pain points and what are some things that I know that I can help people with? Because I know every single one of us are unique and have a different story and a different ability to help other people. And, I thought about all of the struggles I've had with my health and, learning about my diet and what things make me super bloated and fatigued. And, I would have these situations where I was just feeling so sick and I just didn't know why. So I looked further into that, and that's kind of what led me to holistic health, is because, I'm not going to go back to school quite yet anyway, but I know there's a way that I can use what I've been through and turn that around to help other people. So that's what kind of got me interested. And I decided to go for the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and it's an online school, and they really focus on a holistic view, which really in turn means, a spiritual, physical, it's an all-encompassing way to view health, where it's not just about necessarily one thing. I like to look at this person's relationships and this person's career and their home environment and all of these other things that really contribute to overall health.
Okay. And see, that's a very opposite description of what I give. Well, not very opposite. I gave the description of essentially it being the connection of, how our body influences our mind, our thoughts, and the way that we move. But I think that from what you're saying, it's a lot more expansive than that. It's the people that we surround ourselves by, the circles that we put ourselves in, the situations that we put ourselves in. So I guess it's supposed to be just like the person holistically. I guess like what exactly is that facet that makes it different than just taking care of yourself and physically?
I feel like it really involves, mind, body, and spirit. And I think that when we take care of ourselves, some of those practices really do involve all of that. It really depends. But I think it's important to learn about different ways that we can not only help our body in a physical way, but also mentally. And it's all, I would say, there's a lot of things that are interconnected. And it's not just, black or white in that sense. But, for example, something like soft belly breathing or deep breathing or breath work, which we hear a lot about these days. It's really combining a way to still the mind, but also give a physical response, to where if we take in deep breaths and really learn how to move our diaphragm instead of taking these, short, shallow breaths in our chest that we do oftentimes during the day when we're stressed or we're, in our head about something. It's calming our nervous system, and it actually sets our nervous system from being in a, fight or flight to a relaxed state. And with that comes so many other benefits. And so I think combining that and really thinking about how we can take care of ourselves in all of those kinds of ways would be more effective than, like you're saying, just focusing on one thing.
So idealistically, like as a holistic health coach and someone that is, in process of like formulating different programs and just trying to understand, I guess, just the avenue in which you want to take with each individual person, just like how would a person, like how would you start taking that step towards working with someone holistically in that domain? Like
definitely. Well, for me, my emphasis and what I like to focus and who I like to work with are women who, are needing to find home within their bodies. So I'm really into body positivity and loving and accepting our body for the way it is, and also transforming our health in order to really continue to feel that and strengthen that relationship with ourselves. And so, I use integrative nutrition and I use these practices to focus on that group of people. There are so many ways you can go in holistic wellness and holistic health, but this is what I like to choose. So for me, I start with a health assessment. and I talk with them one on one, and we go through a series of different things where we can really just have an open, safe space to talk about whatever it is that they want to work on and whatever it is that they feel and need to work through. And sometimes that requires me to dive a little deeper into something that they may not have thought of, or it could just be, specific one thing that's what they're targeting, but it really all does depend on the individual. And just like I'm saying, we all have really unique ways of life and ways of living, and culturally, and foods, and all different kinds of things. We're all different, very different people. So it's hard to say that I focus on one specific thing, but if you are looking for a specific answer as to what it is that I start with and who I'm talking to and who I'm interested in helping, that would be it.
Like a health assessment, or
yeah, I would start with a health assessment, and that really covers a wide range of things, and it's more of like a health history where we talk about things that they're experiencing, things that their family has experienced, things, their age, all of this just random, not random, but all of these selective kinds of information that we can learn. I can get an idea of where they're at, and then that would be also a great opportunity where they tell me what they want to work on. And like I said, I work with people who may not feel really connected to their body and the food and how they're feeling when they eat food and that relationship there. But then there could be so much, right? Because we all have such a unique and different way and relationship with food. And so, and that could be from, childhood, that could be from our own experiences. It's a whole combination of things. So
this topic is a lot bigger than what I had actually imagined, where it's like, it seems to be, again, like very encompassing of so many different domains, and where it seems like you open up one layer and you kind of have all these different facets within that layer. So where like we open up that layer of food, and now it's like, okay, so what's our relationship with food, whether the food that we've created, whether it's the way that we've associated with food because of our body, because of our past, because of our family. And it's like, it seems like so much. So I guess, does that health assessment really give you that full idea, or do you discover this along the way as you're working with people, and how do you manage that as you come across these new facets and these new aspects of people?
Yeah, great question. The health assessment is really just number one. It's the first thing. It's, really getting a feel for each other. And once we've decided, yes, this is somebody I want to work with, or this is the right person for me on their end, then we talk about the logistics. And for me, what I like to do right now, this may change, but I like to do a 6-month program. And this way people have an ability to start something new that they want to start and get, the gears moving. And then they have some space to, maybe they revert back to what they were doing before, and, back to the drawing board, or maybe something's not working for them, or maybe it is, but they're struggling. Just like, anyone, I think it's with health and specifically working with things in like your gut and your own personal transformation emotionally. These things take time, and it's not a program for those people who want, a fix, a one pill fix it all, or not have to put any work in. This is something that takes a commitment, and it's 6 months is a great amount of time for a lot of people to think about, but checking in twice a month and kind of seeing where they're at and seeing what they want to work on. These goals can change, even within the first month, when they start to realize things about themselves that they haven't. And I'm sorry I'm giving like almost a very general and vague response, but it's really more that people are so different in what they want to achieve for themselves.
No, I think that's I think you may feel it's vague because you have so much knowledge in it, but like for me, it's like it's so expansive in the way that like it's giving so much detail and so much insight as to what this is, or what holistic health is. Because again, when I think holistically, I think, okay, am I eating correctly? Like maybe I'm using herbal medicines rather than like medicinal medicines, and like I never really taken part of that like aspect of just like mentally and like the things that I'm doing there, and like spiritually, even this aspect. So you mentioned this idea of holistic health being spiritually and mentally and physically incorporated and like encompassing in all these different domains. So I guess individually, how would you work in those domains? What kind of like things would you bring in to work, like when working with that person, that would, I guess, target or kind of work in those different domains of mentality and spirituality and physicality?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in meditation, and I do believe that would be considered a spiritual practice. A lot of people really do find it kind of woo-woo, and so they're turned off to it, but there's also so much science backing it, and really it gives people better focus and better memory during the day, and clears their mind. So that's something I think is really important, and what I like to offer and encourage for my clients, because I think when we're going through changes, and it's not always comfortable, and I know we all face some anxiety about things that can happen in the future, or what if, and if we're leaving our comfort zone in any form, it's not going to feel comfortable. And I think on top of so many other things, whether this person's working full time, whether they have a family, whether they're going through everyone's going through something. And so I think meditation is one of those things that I don't ever believe couldn't help anyone. It's just something fundamental. So that's definitely something that I like to practice and encourage my clients to do. And whether that starts out with some breath work, learning how to really move your diaphragm and breathe out from your belly and really expand and contract instead of breathing just from that chest and that shallow breathing. That could be something to start with, and then move on from there. And then after that, I think there's definitely a nutrition piece in there, and depending on where they're at, it's really, I believe in encouraging for more whole foods, more fruits and vegetables, organic if possible, no matter what kind of diet people have. And I'm a firm believer in really not giving somebody a specific diet, because I tend to believe that diets are restrictive. And, in my experience, when I've tried diets, I've really been in a space where I felt, okay, well, I can't eat this even though I love it, and I can't do this. And then if for any reason I decide to eat that, and
You feel bad.
I feel bad, and I'm shaming myself, and I feel guilty, and then I feel worse because, or a lot of times what happens is people say, okay, well, I've already eaten this, I might as well just go for it.
You're off the wagon, so just
exactly, which isn't so good. I like to really bring in this sustainable kind of idea where we're just gonna love ourselves. We're gonna be compassionate to ourselves during the process, and I feel like that really aids for more growth.
I think that's really amazing, and like I guess a big thing that, it's big for all of us, because food is something that's so somewhat necessary. I guess that's something to be determined. I've recently read this article about breatharians, or individuals that kind of just take energy from the sun, but that's like something else entirely different. But this idea of just like like the stuff that we put in our body, and of course like organic foods, it's something that we all kind of want to aspire towards doing, but then we go to the store and like we feel as though maybe it's a little more expensive than like the vegetables that we want to get, and it kind of puts us at odds, where we want to do that thing that's good for us, but we also like, just like what you were saying, where it's like we choose the other option, but then when we do choose that option, we kind of feel bad in ourselves for doing that. But I guess as we think about just this idea of the stuff we're putting in our bodies, like what does that mean as far as like you not necessarily wanting to specify a certain diet to people, where you just also like suggested that we put whole foods in ourselves? Like, where's that balance, and what exactly do you advocate as you speak to people that have their diets, have their history of different foods and relationships to food, and how do you, I guess, address that? Because I know that sometimes it can be very sensitive when you address like what people are eating, what people are putting in their body, but it's so important as we start moving to this avenue of holistic health and like understanding ourselves. So
Yeah.
how do you approach that?
Yeah, well, I think in today's age, it's honestly, there is so much money that is being poured into advertising and almost tricking society to think that certain foods are going to give them more energy or aren't going to be bad for them or whatever it is. And I think the the world and information has been so convoluted to where most people are so disconnected to what it is they're eating sometimes and what it's actually doing. And like I said before, everybody's at a different space, right? Some people could not even, maybe not, aren't thinking about anything in terms of, not knowing what's good for them, what's not good for them. And that's okay. I think that it's more common than not to be confused about what's good what's good for us, because I think there's studies that come out that say sugar is good for you, processed sugar is great, and then nobody's looking at who's funding the study, and maybe it's Coca-Cola or and there's things that say, oh, all fat is bad, and carbs are bad. And I think there's just so much out there that can make people feel like, I don't even know. So I get that, and I think it takes a little bit of time to kind of unpack that. And so if somebody's in that space, it's the way I approach it is I offer doing a pantry makeover. I offer a supermarket tour. I like to give people an idea and actually educate people. But also give them that space to know that, these things that you're eating, it's some of those things that you've had maybe when you're a child. And to tell yourself that you cannot eat those things is really going to mess these people up. It's hard. And so that's what I mean about kind of being anti-diet, is really getting away from that restrictive space. But I will say there's one diet that I do believe in, and it's really not about restricting things that you like to eat. It's really about minimizing symptoms. And it's well known. It's called the elimination diet. And there's a list of things that really don't do so hot in our bodies. And a lot of people hear about it, not so sure. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But these things are basically coming through our body, and oftentimes the cells, which, by the way, there's over 70% of our immune cells in our body are in our gut. So when you think about it that way, when you're eating something, your body is almost just putting feelers out. Like, what is this? What is this that's coming in? And do I need to attack it if it's foreign and it's not doing so good? Or do I like this? Is this, going to reach and spread nutrients throughout my body? And so there's this list of which gluten and dairy, probably the biggest ones. Those things really tend to irritate our gut. And over time, our body starts to kind of attack itself. And it's not the case all the time. There's definitely different things that happen, but our bodies, essentially, the microbiome in our gut become imbalanced. And we need, good bacteria, and we need, bad bacteria, but when there's too much of one or the other, it's not always good. And so the elimination diet is something that I advocate for if there's ever a diet, and it's, like I said, about taking away those symptoms. Some people experience IBS, some people are chronically fatigued, some people are in pain, they have bloating, they have joint pain. It just transfers down the whole list, and it gets worse and worse. And oftentimes they're not able to get help from their primary doctors. You know, they get diagnosed with something like chronic fatigue, but aren't told what to do. And it's oftentimes, and not all the time, of course, right? But it's oftentimes what we're eating. And so the elimination diet is really all about eliminating.
I'm sorry, that was an alarm.
That's okay. It's just about eliminating the things that are irritants in your body and giving yourself a chance to kind of recoup. And then you get to experiment and maybe introduce those things later and see how your body responds.
Yeah, I've never actually heard about the elimination diet, but that makes so much sense about the things that we put into our body. I've mentioned this before on the podcast. I'm on a plant-based diet. I've been vegan for a little over 5 years now, and the main reason I wanted to do this because I knew that what we put into our body was something that, you know, it's very important, you know, like that has a lot to do with our health. But I also realized that, like, when I first became vegan, I wasn't getting enough nutrients. I was, like, chronically fatigued. I wasn't getting enough energy. Like, I felt just, like, very weak because I wasn't putting the right things in my body. And even as I started transitioning and, like, experimenting with more foods, there were processed foods and things that I was putting into my body that weren't necessarily good. So I love the idea that you don't advocate for specific diets, because I don't necessarily like to push my plant-based diet on other people because it's not right for everyone. But I love the idea that people that are helping other people and knowing that each person is very individual and, like, each person has their own needs body-wise and, you know, mentally and physically and whatever that is, they're so unique. So as we think about it, just this idea of gut health, how is that, do you feel like that's, like, the overarching thing that we should be focusing on, rather than not necessarily what we put into our body, but how our body's reacting to it and how we understand how our body's reacting to it?
I think we should absolutely be paying attention to what we're putting in our body. Because that saying, you are what you eat, is, I believe in it. It's your body responds to what fuel it's taking in. And it's more important than we realize. And with that being said, I think with the whole foods, the fruits and the vegetables, a lot of these things that you're saying with your plant-based is you miss out on nutrients when you aren't necessarily, you're trying to replace meat with maybe soy products or something else. But no matter what diet you have, whether you're a meat eater or heavy meat eater, or you're only plant-based, organic fruits and vegetables are always going to give you nutrients, and they're always going to be good for you. I mean, give or take some exceptions, right? Some people's stomach aren't used to eating, like, rich leafy greens if they haven't, and so that might upset their stomach. But overall, in general, if we're talking about a wide range of population, fruits and vegetables, whole ingredients, and what I mean by whole is something that is from earth, that isn't changed, isn't processed, isn't made into something else. It is what it is. That's what I mean by whole. You don't have to read an ingredient list for it. So now I'm forgetting your question, but I think that's
Yeah, no, I think that my question was kind of vague and ambiguous. I think maybe my question was, like, more of a statement. But one thing I did pick up that you had mentioned was this virtual grocery thing that you were speaking about, and I think that's so important, because just kind of going back to the reason why I brought up how initially, being plant-based, I didn't get enough nutrients. I didn't know my options. I didn't know, like, what I could use, like, what kind of things were out there for me. I knew there were fruits and vegetables, but I was like, I don't want to just eat salads all the time. I want to, like, make certain meals. And I think that a lot of times we don't know the options that we have. So I think that's amazing that you do that in your program, and just, like, have this type of just continuation, and, like, just that being an important part of this holistic health journey that we all want to go on, or that we were trying to go on in different type of ways. So I guess for individuals that are, like, wanting to initiate this process. Maybe they don't have someone that's around them that's a health coach, or someone that can do this for free, or maybe they don't have the finances to start this journey on themselves on their own. So like, what would you suggest to them as far as just taking that first step to start to just recognize the things that go into holistic health, and how they would start incorporating that into their life? How would you what would you suggest?
Well, if it's really mainly about diet, or nutrition, I would say the first thing that I would suggest is starting a food journal. We want to know what we're eating, and there's a lot of apps out there that track calories and things like that, and those are pretty cool too. Although I'm not super big on calories, I think it's more important about the quality of calories we're getting, but it's a great way to kind of become more mindful about what we're putting into our bodies, what that means, what it's doing for us, and starting that journey, because I really believe it's important to become more intimate with the food we're eating. It's so important to actually understand that what we're taking in eventually on a cellular level becomes us. It breaks down in your body.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy. I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah. So you have to really understand that this is important, and it takes a little bit of an extra effort to fight to eat healthy in this day and age. We're just, like I said, these advertisements and these commercials and all of these fake, information things out there that are telling us, you can eat this, but you can't eat this. Eggs are good. Now eggs are bad. It's confusing, and I get that. But the best thing we can do is start a food journal. Start the process of becoming aware of what we're eating. Start that journey. Think about what you want for yourself, and the best, I guess, overarching goal is to really, instead of saying, I'm not eating well, and shaming ourselves and making ourselves feel bad about where we're at in terms of our health. It's a new day tomorrow, and there's always that chance to do better for ourselves, and it's never too late. And start by looking up some fun new recipes and cooking for ourselves. I think it's a huge thing that we all don't do. We're all busy. We start to buy food. You think about the love that's put in that food. It's hardly any. But when we cook for ourselves, we're so stoked. I mean, I don't know about you, but I get excited when you make something good and you look up a new recipe and you're like, wow, healthy this and this is this. I'm going to go out and get these ingredients. Now I'm aware of what this vegetable actually looks like and what it can do for me. And it's starting that, intimate process, like I've been saying. And when we start to cook for ourselves, we're, spending less money oftentimes. We're using fresh ingredients. If you have any locals farmers markets by you, look and see what is in season. You'll start to learn, and you can grow and explore all of that, because it's important. So I think that's one of those things I would tell people, and focus on getting those vegetables in, and fruits, and healthy fats. Fats are not bad. Of course, there's bad fats, there's trans fats, just like there's processed carbs and, bad carbs. But
carbs are my favorite.
That's everyone's favorite, right? But it's not all bad, and so that's my advice. I would say really get that going.
I think that there's a lot that goes into that, and I just, as you were speaking, the first thing that came up to me was just the idea of time. It takes so much time to, well, at least there's a thought that it takes so much time to create a very healthy meal, a healthy, well-balanced meal, making on your own, especially throughout like a work week, being really busy and doing all this other stuff. And I guess like for that person, I mean, you've been someone that's had 3 jobs, studying in school, doing a lot of things, and like juggling a lot of things, but also with this kind of awareness of the things that you're putting into your body. So how would you, I guess, what advice would you offer to people that are also in the same situation? Maybe they're working multiple jobs. Maybe they have they feel as though they have very little time to make a whole meal for themselves? Like, would you give any advice to them as far as just where to go or what to do, or you know, just like how do they manage to do that in that lifestyle?
Yeah, I know it's tough. I'm a big advocate for meal prepping.
Yeah.
I'm
so
always
bad at
going
it.
to be, and I know I tell all my friends, and they say the same thing. I'm so bad at it, but there's always that excuse of I don't like eating the same thing and all of that. But really, if you think about it, it's a no-brainer. You choose one day of the week, and you have to carve out a couple hours. There's just no way around it, but it's worth it. You know, we can make time for that. If we prioritize it, we will make time. And grab some beans, grab some, whole grains, grab some fresh greens. Make yourself a combination. And again, look up a fun new recipe. My advice there too is look up two different things if you don't like to eat the same thing every day for lunch. But look up something fun, add in some of those whole grains, those fresh nutrients, fresh everything. And I usually, what I do, it's like I make a big pot of, beans or whatever it is, and rice and things like that. I look up some simple things, quinoa, and I make a big batch of that. And that way, if you don't want to have the same thing, you can kind of throw that into different things and make different combinations of it. But when you have your lunch packed for you, then you go to work, you bring it with you. Maybe you have to heat it up or you don't, whatever. But it saves you money, it saves you time, and you're getting the nutrition that you need. And then it then furthers the process of not feeling super tired so quickly, and you want after your fifth cup of coffee, and then you can't sleep at night because the half-life of coffee is like 6 to 8 hours or something. And so if you have coffee at 3 p.m., you could very well be up at night, and then it's the whole process is over. You're exhausted in the morning the next day. And so I think it's get in what you can fit in and prioritize it. It does take an extra effort. It's not easy. There's no magic pill. There's no just easy way about it, but it can be when you get in a flow, and everything just takes a little time, and you can get in that routine. And once it becomes part of your routine, then it's no problem.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's like the routine, because I've done actual meal prepping, and it's been amazing. I've done accidental meal prepping. I was telling you about an experience where last weekend I had some alcohol, and I woke up the next day and I had a huge pot of rice and lentils. Like, it was just like a mixed bag, like a huge pot of rice and lentils. No one needs that much rice and lentils. And I used it throughout the next week, and it made meals so much easier. Whereas, like, I didn't have to really plan out what the base of my meal was going to be. I just had to chop up some vegetables, throw it into the pan, throw the rice that I had already cooked, made a nice stir fry, throw some soy sauce, teriyaki sauce, and it was like the easiest time that I've had making meals in months, because I've been so bad with meal prepping. And I think that big aspect with time is something so important, because as I've spoken about to many of the listeners here, and as you may have known, Allie, that I've been doing renovations on this travel trailer that I bought, and during that time I was so busy. I was doing like a lot of stuff. I was actually working on other projects as well, and it gave me very little time to actually make food. So I was buying a lot of food. I was eating out a lot more. I didn't feel good. Like, I would wake up the next day, I'd be sore, I'd be tired. My stomach would be kind of cramped because I ate so much the night before of like a super large burrito or something that was just like too excessive. And when we feel as though we have less time, we resort to that option that may not be as healthy, that may not be as like right towards what we want. And I want to backtrack just a little bit towards this idea of like that self-shame that we start feeling in those times when we kind of fall short of the things that we want to do for ourselves, or fall short of our diet that we kind of attribute towards what we have. And I guess, like, when you experience this, whether with clients that you're working with on that holistic health basis, or people that you kind of just interact with as you're speaking about this idea of shame and the actions that we take when we maybe fall short of something that we want to do. I guess, how do you manage that shame, or speak about that shame towards people that are feeling that after, again, like falling short of something that they wanted to do.
Yeah, I think it's commonly a big part of the process, because when you are somewhat aware of what you're putting into your body and you're not necessarily following through with what you want to do, and that shame comes up and that guilt comes up, in a way, and this, you can think of it this way, is you're actually becoming aware of what you're putting in your body to be able to feel that, to
Mm-hmm.
to feel that shame. You're actually aware that, okay, that wasn't so good. And I think that's commonly part of the process, and I think everyone feels that way
Yeah.
when they're starting out. It's just like learning how to do anything and you're not so good at it. It's just like, well, we can get down on ourselves and we can shame ourselves, but we just have to keep going. And I think eventually, just knowing that you're doing the work and getting yourself in a space where, yeah, it may not be perfect this first time, but I'm going to keep going is really key. So I try to really encourage more of a growth mindset with it, where there you don't have to feel down on yourself, because this is just the beginning of all of it. And there's so much to learn, and the fact that you are making this commitment to your health and this awareness of your body is an amazing thing.
I was smiling while you were speaking because that idea of falling short and kind of feeling bad about just what you're putting in your body, the awareness. I had this like love-hate relationship with Taco Bell.
Oh no.
And it's just been so bad. And I stopped eating Taco Bell for just like fast food in general, but there are two Taco Bells in town, and at a certain hour, it's like the only thing that's open because, again, it's a small town. There's not very much around. And I went to Taco Bell after like almost a full year of not having Taco Bell, and it tore my stomach up. And not only did I feel bad in the decision of eating it, but I felt bad physically, like in my body. And that makes it so much more empowering, where you saying that, like, that's just greater awareness of your body and like the awareness of where you're at in this process. Because I haven't had Taco Bell since, and I've thought about it. It's not that I haven't thought about it, but
Yeah.
it's just more or less just like that idea of just being more aware and like realizing that as I was like eating that, and like as I felt that pain, I was like, this isn't something I want, and I didn't want this before, and now I'm like being just reaffirmed of it. And although like I still had it in my body, although I still had to deal with the cramps and the bloating and all that other stuff, it was still nice to recognize at least that like it reaffirmed something in me that made it so that maybe I'm not going to have Taco Bell again. But who knows? There's a Chipotle that just came into town, and that might be the new go-to.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
But you mentioned farmers markets, and I just went to this farmer market this past Saturday. If you have I'm mixing up words. If you have a local farmers market in the area that you live in, it can be so beneficial to go there. You're meeting local farmers. A lot of times that's like organic stuff. Like people, you see the people, you can speak to the people, you can even ask them what they use in their products, and it's different than going to the grocery store and not really knowing, although the label says organic or non-organic or wherever you're getting your produce, you get to actually speak to the farmer. You get to actually see where this person is getting the stuff from, and have an idea of what you're putting into your body. And I think that's so amazing. And the food's not always very expensive. I got this head of cauliflower that's the size of my head. Like, and I have a big head. It's the size of my head. It's huge. And it was only $4. And I got like bags of like nectarines and things like that. Again, $5. Like, it just so much that's available there. So I love that idea of farmers market, and you're supporting the local community and the people that are around you. So
it's grown near you. You're not buying a tomato that's from another country shipped over here.
Yeah.
You're supporting these farmers and their families who are working to bring us fresh ingredients for our food. And then on top of that, you get to learn about what's in season, because they're not bringing anything that's not in season. When we go into supermarkets, sometimes we don't even get to even understand, because we still have everything on stock.
Yeah.
Whether, it's organic or not, it's shipped over, it's whatever.
And I think that's just that's just kind of ridiculous to think about it. I've definitely gained some more knowledge in just learning what's in season and what's not in season. And something unique about farmers market, you had actually told me about this, where you were thinking about just going somewhere and starting a farmers market somewhere, and just like the benefit. I didn't even know like all the benefits of what a farmers market provides for a community.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely different depending on where you start one, but it's always kind of been a dream of mine because I've seen, I don't know what I saw, it might have been a documentary, but somebody opened one in a very, concrete jungle of a town or a city, and there was this parking lot, this, old parking lot that hasn't been used, no one's bought anything, and they ended up making a farmer's market out of that area and really renovated, what is the word I'm thinking of?
Renovated?
Renovated. There we go. I almost said it wrong. But, yeah, it used to be this area where people are just selling drugs to each other, and it's kind of this grimy part of town. But when they put a farmer's market there, then there was children, there's families, there's this safety that kind of starts in the area, and then it's community, and people are learning from each other and they're connecting. Otherwise, sometimes in those busy cities, we're not connecting with our neighbor. We're going to work, we're going home. It's kind of just, we don't really know our neighbors sometimes, but it started a whole community where people knew who each other were in the community. We knew the local farmers. We're eating fresh. We're learning about what these vegetables look like and what these fruits look like, and so on.
And I mean, like, that sounds like, I mean, just kind of like wrapping all this together, that sounds like that's this idea of holistic health as well, where it's like not only are you getting good quality food to put into your body, but you're also, that mental space is being cleared. Like, you can go into a place and feel safe. You can speak to different people and create those social connections. You can, feed not only your body, but you can also feed your soul. You could feed your mind with just positivity and community. And I think that's something that I love to advocate for. I mean, like, this entire podcast, it's to, start these conversations with people, start these things where we can start connecting with people on different levels and understanding people on different levels and understanding ourselves throughout that process. And I mean, just like this idea of like working holistically, I think it's like really amazing. And as I kind of look at the time and think about just how long this has been going on, I kind of just want to ask about just what's your, I guess, closing ideas as far as just this step of holistic health and what that means. We know that it encompasses our body, our mind, and our spirit in certain ways. And you spoke about meditation and food and just these different aspects of things that we can start incorporating into our lives to live more holistically. But I guess just like as these listeners are closing out this podcast and starting off with their day where they're going to go back into the same routines and do these same things, what would you say if they were interested in wanting to start this process? I mean, is there information that you can give to them, like things that they can start reading up? I mean, maybe information that you've provided throughout like your sources that you'd like to just share to where like people can really take this into their own hands and see if this is something right for them.
Definitely. Well, nowadays, everything's a Google search away. But I think there is that necessary need for a coach in terms of guidance, because nowadays we can really learn everything. We could look it up. You could look up right now what's in season in your country, in your state, in your city. And then you can look up, what the difference between trans fats and good fats are, or what vegetables are best for you. You can learn all of that. But where really I come in and what other coaches come in is really part of that guiding process. We don't oftentimes have somebody that's going to work with you one-on-one and listen to where you're at and love you unconditionally for where you're at and want to help you. But taking that in consideration and just thinking about these people and starting and beyond what I said earlier, I would say if you really want to treat food as medicine, I would definitely think about eating the rainbow. Think about adding more color to your meals, whether that's, carrots and orange and tomatoes and, just more color into your dishes is a great, easy thing to think about. Whether you know the nutrients of each thing you're eating, It's good to eat colorful, antioxidant rich foods. Um, that's the main thing I can think of as a finishing, overarching, kind of easy thing to implement besides starting the food journal, besides being aware that loving yourself and being compassionate towards yourself is the best and better way to grow, and is going to be the faster way to grow. And just, yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else I want to finish that I didn't already say. Seeds and nuts are also great thing to think about in terms of your diet. And you can get plenty of protein from vegetables. You do not need meat. And if you are going to eat meat, go for organic, go for free range, go for grass-fed, go for all of the most high quality that you can get. And actually, last thing is learn to read the ingredient list. We don't want, a bunch of sugar in our food, and we don't want, for example, if you think about like fruit juice, a lot of that, oftentimes, most of it is just a sugar bomb. There's just so much added sugar in there. And it's not even the sugar that we need to worry about in terms of like, oh, we shouldn't add sugar to our coffee. It's all of the secret added sugar that's been put in the foods that we like to eat. So the easiest thing to do is to look at what you're eating. If there's a million things in the ingredient list and you don't know what they are, chances are it's not going to be so good for you. As a general, I guess, thing to think about. So eat the rainbow and think about what you're eating and look at that ingredient list. Avoid processed refined sugars. Eat more vegetables and fruits. Go for whole grains. Go for whole foods.
Nice. Okay. So I guess, yeah. I've definitely learned a lot, just this idea of holistic health, and I guess maybe there are some practices that I've had, and maybe a lot of us may have, as far as just working holistically. And I think that that's something, a good point that you brought up, as far as just the need for coaches. And I spoke about in one episode that the name I can't exactly remember, but I speak about challengers, teachers, and another thing. But teachers are something that's very important as far as just how we grow and develop ourselves, and how we move to that next state of where we want to be, where we can take things into our own hands, we can take matters into our own hands, but there is also that great source of having someone there that's going to remind you that not only are you going to put the right stuff into your body, but what's the association mentally that you're having with that? What are you feeling within yourself and spiritually as you start to connect yourself with your body more and with your mind more? And it's complete holistic process that I think is just very, very, very amazing. And I think that it's something that, as we start to understand ourselves more, as we start to grow, I think that many of us may feel a pull towards moving to that in certain domains. And it's a step-by-step process. And I think that we all move at different places, and we're all in different places. And I love that that's something that you advocate for and that you respect in your practice and as you work with people. So I guess just to close things off, where can people find you if they want to get some more information, if they want to just kind of keep up to date with you make amazing posts just like about gut health and things that we put into our body. I love reading it, and I learned so much as you post it. So where can people find this information and kind of get a hold of you if they want to, ask questions or just follow your content?
Yeah, definitely. Instagram, I've got my name, it's Alissia Lobo, so ALISSIA.Lobo, LOBO. Definitely, I'm working on solidifying my website, so you can find that through my Instagram, and if you want to email me, you can. It's innerguidedgoddess@gmail.
Innerguidedgoddess@gmail?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. And your Instagram, you can just find by the handle name or by your actual name?
Yeah.
Alissia Lobo.
Alissia.Lobo. And then there you can find the link to my website. You can make a appointment with me if you want to schedule a health assessment. You can do all of that through that. And then if you'd like to email me instead, it's innerguidedgoddess@gmail.com.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to link all that information in on the post about this episode on the Instagram page, so you can find her information on there. If any of you want to send any topics or ideas or thoughts or questions about this topic or any other thing that was been covered in this podcast ever, you can email that to everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com. You can join the Instagram page at everything.sunpodcast. You can join the Twitter page at everysunpodcast, or you can join the Facebook group at Everything Under the Sun with Ty. Rate, review, subscribe, and share with people. Share the things that you're feeling, things that you're thinking. Connect with people. It's an amazing way to do that and feed yourself spiritually. So that's all I got. Love you all. Allie, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure to be with you.
And I will see all of y'all next time.